Push in the state Senate right now to vote on a bipartisan bill legalizing online sports betting after a similar bill in the Assembly passed by a unanimous vote last week.
It comes after the Senate Majority Leader told reporters he's non-committal in his support to make that happen. In First Alert Update, we take a closer look at the ongoing debate in Madison. Just days after the state assembly passes a bill legalizing online sports betting, a similar bill in the Senate faces uncertainty, even though it has support from both sides of the aisle, according to one Fox Valley senator.
My thoughts is it is ridiculous that we cannot bring bills to the floor that we know we have enough votes to pass. When you have a bipartisan bill coming both signatures, authors on both sides, bring it to the floor and let's vote on it.
Whether that vote happens is now up to State Senator Devin LeMahieu, who serves as Majority Leader. He told WisPolitics his GOP caucus hasn't spent a lot of time on sports betting and, quote, I think from a policy standpoint it makes sense, but I don't know if we can get it across the finish line, end quote. The Wisconsin Constitution requires that any legal gambling be managed by the state's 11 tribes who have endorsed the legislation.
By allowing a legal framework for mobile sports wagering through Wisconsin's tribes, the state will see increased revenue through the state gaming compacts, and consumers will have the legal protection needed to ensure they receive fair play.
State senators in support echoing that statement.
Right now, the online sports betting is unmanaged. It is happening in the state of Wisconsin without any consumer protections whatsoever. On top of that, the people are in danger, and we are not driving the revenue through the state that we could. That's just simple.
Opposition to this bill has come from the Sports Betting Alliance, which represents both FanDuel and DraftKings.